The mistakes of a good husband and father broke two families apart. In 2021, a shocking crime shook Puerto Rico involving a famous athlete, a young woman, and a tragic end that left the nation demanding justice. This is the story of Felix Verdejo, a celebrated boxer whose promising career took a dark and devastating turn, and Keishla Rodriguez, a woman who deserved so much more than the fate she met. Stick around as we dive into the events that unfolded, the investigation that followed, and the chilling details that came to light. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and show your support by liking and sharing. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive. In 2012, at the Summer Olympics in London, a young Puerto Rican boxer named Felix Verdejo Sanchez captured the world's attention. He was hailed as a diamond in the rough, a prodigy destined to shine on the global stage. One of Puerto Rico's brightest prospects, he was widely expected to claim world titles and Olympic gold medals. Back then, it seemed inevitable that this talented and driven young man would achieve extraordinary heights in the world of sports. Fast forward to 2021, and Felix Verdejo's name once again dominated headlines. But this time, for all the wrong reasons. His story had shifted from the realm of sports glory to the grim pages of criminal chronicles. Felix was born on May 19, 1993, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Growing up in a modest, close-knit family, he developed a passion for sports at an early age. Interestingly, his childhood dream wasn't to become a boxer, but to pursue a career in baseball. However, a pivotal moment changed the trajectory of his life. When Felix was 9 years old, a family friend visited with his son, who was the same age. While playing together, the boys got into a fight. After their parents intervened, Felix's father jokingly remarked that if his son wanted to fight, he should do it in a boxing ring with gloves. Taking that advice to heart, Felix convinced his family to take him to a local boxing gym. From the very first training session, he was captivated by the sport. His natural talent and relentless determination quickly set him apart. By age 16, Felix won the Pan American Junior Championships. The following year, he claimed his country's national championship title. At just 19 years old, he represented Puerto Rico at the 2012 London Olympics, advancing to the quarterfinals, a remarkable achievement for such a young athlete. That same year, Felix transitioned to the professional ring, embarking on what many believed would be a legendary boxing career. Meanwhile, another life story intertwined with Felix's, one that would later become tragically significant. In November 1993, Keishla Marlene Rodriguez Ortiz was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Her parents, Jose and Kayla Rodriguez, raised her alongside her sister, Beralise Nicole, and her half-brother, Jonathan, Kayla's son from a previous relationship. Keishla grew up as a vibrant, outgoing, and compassionate young woman. She excelled in school and had a deep love for animals, aspiring to become a veterinarian. Her sister, Beralise, was her confidant and closest friend with whom she shared all her secrets and dreams. Interestingly, Keishla and Felix's paths first crossed in childhood. Both attended the same school in San Juan and knew each other from a young age. Their connection, however, would later evolve into a complex and fateful relationship that neither of them, or the world, could have anticipated. In 2011, Keishla Rodriguez's parents divorced and went their separate ways. Her mother, Kayla, moved to Florida to live with relatives, while Keishla and her sister, Beralise, who were both adults by then, chose to stay in San Juan. Despite living apart, the sisters remained incredibly close, sharing their lives and supporting each other through every triumph. And Keishla's family, including her sister Beralise and mother Kayla, were aware of the complicated relationship and disapproved of her involvement with Felix. The situation was anything but simple. On one hand, Eliza believed she was Felix's one true love and future wife. She was making plans for their wedding and a life together. On the other hand, Keishla, fully aware of Felix's engagement to Eliza, couldn't let go of her feelings for him. Felix, for his part, kept Keishla in his life, reigniting her hope that they might have a future together. In 2016, Felix married Eliza, who by then had grown into a well-known model with tens of thousands of social media followers. She had also launched a successful beauty studio specializing in eyelash extensions. Eliza, barely 19 at the time, seemed to have everything going for her: a flourishing career and a high-profile marriage to a world-famous boxer. However, just months after their wedding, tragedy nearly struck. In August 2016, Felix was involved in a devastating motorcycle accident. The incident left his fans and family shaken, serving as a grim reminder of the risks that could so easily derail his promising future. After the motorcycle accident, Felix was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, suffering from head injuries, bruises, and deep lacerations. His trainer, Ricky Marquez, was deeply concerned that this incident might derail Felix's career at its peak. However, defying the grim prognosis, Felix made a remarkable recovery and returned to the boxing ring sooner than anyone expected. By September 2019, Felix appeared to be thriving both professionally and personally. He shared a photo on social media with his wife Eliza, who was visibly pregnant, captioning it, "Soon I will meet my daddy's princess." Just a month later, Felix joyfully announced the birth of their daughter, Miranda Verdejo Santiago. To the outside world, Felix seemed like the perfect family man, a devoted husband, and doting father. However, behind closed doors, a different story unfolded. Unbeknownst to Eliza, Felix continued his relationship with Keishla, who remained deeply attached to him despite the complicated and painful circumstances. Eliza later admitted she had long suspected her husband's infidelity. Whenever she confronted him, Felix would swear tearfully to end the affair, but his promises were short-lived. Keishla herself tried multiple times to end their tumultuous relationship, but Felix refused to let her go. He made it clear that she was not to move on or see other men, threatening dire consequences for both her and anyone she chose to be with. Despite this toxic dynamic, Keishla, who had loved Felix since high school, struggled to let go of her feelings for him. Meanwhile, Keishla pursued her own dreams and established a fulfilling career working with animals. She secured a job at the Center of Veterinary Medicine and Aesthetics, where her colleagues described her as diligent, responsible, and compassionate. At home, she lived a quiet life, caring for her two beloved dogs and a cat whom she adored. By 2020, Eliza discovered explicit messages between Felix and several women, including Keishla. Devastated by the betrayal, Eliza confronted her husband in a fiery argument, ultimately throwing him out of their home. She threatened to file for divorce and vowed to prevent him from seeing their daughter, Miranda. Her ultimatum shook Felix, who was already grappling with a significant decline in his boxing career. With his future uncertain and mounting personal problems, Felix found himself teetering on the edge. For a brief period, Felix appeared to distance himself from Keishla, cutting off their interactions. However, he never truly let her go, maintaining a watchful and controlling eye over her life. After months of silence, their secret rendezvous resumed, and in April 2021, Keishla discovered she was pregnant. A drugstore pregnancy test confirmed her suspicions, leaving her anxious and uncertain about what to do next. The first person Keishla confided in was her sister Beralise, who was already aware of her tumultuous relationship with Felix. Despite the complications, Keishla was resolute. She was 27 years old, emotionally ready for motherhood, and prepared to raise the child on her own if necessary. A few days later, she decided to inform Felix, hoping he would accept the news and step up as the father. Felix's reaction, however, was anything but supportive. He became angry and dismissed the news, telling Keishla she needed to visit a doctor to confirm the pregnancy. When she did, and the results were official, Felix's response turned even darker. Furious, he demanded that Keishla terminate the pregnancy, insisting that having a child out of wedlock would ruin his reputation, a risk he claimed he could not afford. Keishla stood her ground, firmly refusing to have an abortion despite Felix's increasingly aggressive threats. Frustrated, Felix attempted another tactic. He accused her of lying and insisted on personally reviewing the medical certificate that confirmed her pregnancy. Hoping to put an end to the argument, Keishla agreed to meet him, trusting that a face-to-face conversation would resolve the matter. Felix arranged to meet her in a public, busy area, an arrangement that didn't seem unusual as they always kept their meetings discreet to avoid drawing attention. What Keishla didn't know was that Felix was plotting something far more sinister. Days before their meeting, Felix visited an old acquaintance, Luis Antonio Cadiz. Cadiz worked at a local machine shop, but was also deeply entrenched in the criminal underworld, dealing in illegal drugs and other illicit activities. The nature of Felix's visit would soon reveal the dark turn their story was about to take. Felix confided in Luis Antonio Cadiz, outlining the situation and asking for help in getting rid of his pregnant mistress. Louise, no stranger to the police radar, was initially hesitant, fearing the consequences of such a grave act. However, Felix was persistent, assuring him that everything would be executed flawlessly and that the authorities would never suspect them. To sweeten the deal, Felix promised Louise a significant cash reward, which ultimately convinced him to comply. With Louise's support, Felix contacted Keishla, requesting to meet her on the evening of April 29th to verify her pregnancy and discuss the next steps. Keishla, still holding out hope that Felix might come around, agreed to the meeting. Immediately after their conversation, she called her sister Beralise to share the news. Keishla hoped the meeting might resolve things, but Beralise relayed her fears to their mother, Kayla, but neither could persuade Keishla to cancel the meeting. Determined to confront Felix, Keishla arrived at the agreed location in her Kia Forte, bringing along the medical certificate confirming her pregnancy. Felix arrived in his pickup truck, with Louise hiding in the back. Trusting Felix, Keishla got into his vehicle and showed him the doctor's note. As the conversation unfolded, Felix once again demanded that she terminate the pregnancy. Keishla, distraught and in tears, refused. The discussion quickly escalated into a heated argument. In a fit of rage, Felix suddenly punched Keishla in the head, rendering her unconscious. While Keishla was incapacitated, Felix retrieved a syringe containing a lethal dose of illegal substances, which Louise had procured at Felix's request. He injected her with the substance before carrying out the rest of their grim plan. Together, Felix and Louise moved Keishla's body to the back of the truck, where they had prepared pieces of wire and a concrete block. They tied her up, attached the weight, and covered her with a tarpaulin to conceal her from view. With their gruesome preparation complete, Felix returned to the driver's seat of his pickup truck, while Louise took the wheel of Keishla's car, setting the stage for the next phase of their sinister plot. Together, Felix and Louise drove to the bridge over the San Jose Lagoon. The area was virtually deserted at night, providing them the cover they needed for their gruesome plan. Ensuring no one was around to witness, they threw Keishla, still alive, into the water. However, as a final, brutal act to ensure there was no chance of survival, they fired multiple shots into the water where she had fallen, using the firearms they had brought with them. After committing the heinous crime, the two men went their separate ways, each returning home as though nothing had happened. The following day, Keishla's absence was first noticed by her colleagues at the Veterinary Medicine and Aesthetics Center. Known for her responsibility and dedication, Keishla would never fail to show up for work without notifying someone. When she didn't answer her phone, her coworkers became increasingly worried and decided to contact her sister Beralise to check on her. Unable to reach Keishla herself, Beralise rushed to her sister's home. Upon arriving, she found the door locked and no response to her knocks. Fortunately, she had a spare key, allowing her to enter. Inside, she was met by a heartbreaking sight: Keishla's pet. On May 1st, a passerby walking on the bridge over the San Jose Lagoon spotted a suspicious shape in the shallow water. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to be a human body. He immediately contacted the police, who arrived and recovered the remains of a young woman from the lagoon. Although the body had been in the water for several days and was heavily decomposed, the initial assumption was that it belonged to the missing Keishla. Members of Keishla's family were called in to identify the body. Despite clinging to the faint hope that it wasn't her, their worst fears were confirmed. The girl was identified by a distinctive tattoo on her arm. The devastating news sent shockwaves through the community and public outrage erupted. Spontaneous rallies were held, with residents demanding justice and severe punishment for those responsible. That same day, Felix Verdejo was detained and brought in for questioning. Despite mounting public suspicion, Felix categorically denied any involvement, repeating his claim that he was home with his family on the night of Keishla's disappearance. With no concrete evidence to charge him, the authorities had no choice but to release him on his own recognizance. One of the key witnesses was Felix's wife, Eliza, who was questioned shortly after his release. She admitted that she had been aware of her husband's affair with Keishla, but claimed this was the first time she had heard about the pregnancy. Significantly, she did not confirm Felix's alibi, stating that he was not at home on the night Keishla went missing. This contradiction only added to the growing suspicion surrounding Felix. The investigation quickly turned its focus to traffic surveillance footage along the route to the bridge, where Keishla had been thrown into the lagoon. The footage revealed Felix's pickup truck traveling in tandem with Keishla's Kia Forte, which was clearly being driven by someone other than its owner. This discovery proved critical in linking Felix to the crime. On the same day, authorities seized Felix's vehicle for examination, where they found strands of Keishla's hair in the truck bed, further implicating him. Luis Antonio Cadiz, racked with guilt and seeking leniency, was the first to surrender to the police. He promised to reveal the full truth in exchange for a reduced sentence. Meanwhile, Felix was also taken into custody, but unlike Luis, he refused to cooperate. He remained silent during interrogations, denied his involvement, and continued to proclaim his innocence despite mounting evidence. Among the items seized during the investigation was Felix's registered firearm, which had been used to shoot Keishla from the bridge. Cell phone data placed Felix, Luis, and Keishla at the same location on the night of the murder, further solidifying the case against him. Keishla's funeral took place on May 8th and was a deeply emotional event, covered extensively by national media. It served not only as a farewell, but also as a powerful call to action, demanding justice for her murder and drawing attention to the broader issue of gender-based violence. In a symbolic gesture, her casket was transported to the cemetery in a white carriage, accompanied by a shower of white flower petals dropped from above. The high-profile case resonated across Puerto Rico and beyond. Prominent figures in show business, sports, politics, and activism spoke out about the tragedy, condemning the violence and expressing solidarity with Keishla's family. Felix was ultimately charged with carjacking, kidnapping, premeditated murder, and the murder of an unborn child. Collectively, these charges carried the possibility of the death penalty. However, Keishla's family requested that the court opt for life imprisonment, believing that Felix should face the weight of his actions behind bars for the rest of his life. The trial faced multiple delays due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, but was eventually held virtually in the spring of 2021. The court found that the crime was committed by a group acting with premeditation and extreme cruelty against a pregnant woman. The events of that fateful night, as well as the harrowing details of the crime, were reconstructed primarily through the testimony of Luis, who fully admitted his role in the atrocity and did not shy away from taking responsibility. Luis Antonio Cadiz admitted in court that he had procured the illegal substance used for the injection and provided the wire and concrete block to help dispose of Keishla's body, all at Felix's request. Despite Luis's detailed confession, Felix continued to deny it. Meanwhile, Felix's wife, Eliza Santiago, testified as a witness during the trial. Shortly after Felix's arrest, she filed for divorce and distanced herself from the scandal. She focused on rebuilding her life, managing her beauty business, and raising their young daughter, Miranda. According to some reports, Eliza remarried not long after, striving to move on from the turmoil. In a candid interview, Eliza revealed that she had received numerous anonymous threats via calls and messages, many wishing harm upon her and even her daughter. Rumors circulated that she might have been involved in orchestrating the crime, but investigators found no evidence to substantiate these claims. By the summer of 2023, the jury had thoroughly reviewed the evidence and witness testimonies, and they were ready to deliver their verdict. Felix Verdejo and his accomplice, Luis Cadiz, were found guilty on all charges, including carjacking, kidnapping, premeditated murder, and the murder of Keishla's unborn child. However, despite the guilty verdict, sentencing had yet to take place. The next court hearing was scheduled for mid-November 2023, where the final penalties would be determined. It is widely anticipated that both men will receive life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring they spend the rest of their lives in prison for their roles in the brutal deaths of Keishla Rodriguez and her unborn baby. The tragic case of Keishla Rodriguez serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked power, toxic relationships, and gender-based violence. What started as a story of ambition and success for Felix Verdejo unraveled into a nightmare that took the life of an innocent woman and her unborn child. It highlights the importance of recognizing warning signs in abusive dynamics and advocating for justice for victims everywhere. Thank you for following this story. If you found it compelling,